Welcome everybody, this is Jason and the name of this week's workshop is Maps in a Mirror. It's a workshop about UV mapping. So let's have a look. What is UV mapping? UV mapping can best be thought of as applying 3D modeling data to a 2D texture. The goal is to utilize the texture as efficiently as possible. How do we accomplish UV mapping in TS2? There are a lot of UV mapping resources available. In this workshop, we'll be concentrating on UVMapper, Milkshape's texture coordinate editor, and Blender 4.4. The UVMapper method. To start in UVMapper, we need a raw, unmapped OBJ, or basically any OBJ that you want to remap. To import the model, we select File, Load, Model. Then we select the OBJ that we want to map. Now we need to assign a type of map to it. There are several options available. A cube isn't going to suit this object very well because it's a D8. So it's got a point at the top, a point at the bottom. And a cube is automatically going to try to force one of the faces to be the top and one to be the bottom. So cube isn't going to work for this. Cylindrical cap is going to do the same thing. It's going to try to force the faces to be a top or a bottom. We don't want that. So for this specific object, it's going to be cylindrical, but depending on your object, it might require a different map. Your map should look something like this when you're done. You can also make adjustments to the vertices manually. When you're happy with the mapping, select File, Save Model, and then save the mapped object as an OBJ. The Milkshape method. In Milkshape, things are a bit different. To get started, we select File, Import Wavefront Object. In the Groups tab, we select the imported object. Then in the Materials tab, we select New. With the new material selected, we click that first big rectangle that says None. Then we add our texture. Then we click Assign. Then we need to make sure that we can see the object. So in the 3D viewport, we right-click and we select Textured. In the shading options, then we go to Windows, Texture Coordinate Editor. And we can see that this is how our map is applied to the 3D object, but what we want to do is get those faces correct. So Milkshape is a little bit weird. In order to get this right, what we need to do is break that up into individual faces, and we'll look at how to do that in the practical part of the workshop, and then map each of those individual faces to one of the faces on the map. So we break it up into individual faces and then we just scoot the vertices. We can grab all three or we can grab just one and we scoot that until it fits the face. For example, here I'm mapping the two face. When we're done, we're going to have a result that looks something like this. And finally, we have the Blender method. In Blender, we start by deleting the default cube. Then we import the object. So we go File, Import, Wavefront Object. That looks pretty much the same on all three applications. Then we select the UV Editing tab at the top taskbar. And we hotkey A to select the entire model. Then in the 3D pane, we hotkey U for UV options and we select Smart UV Project. This is a new feature in 4.4. It's basically AI picking out where to put the seams as opposed to the end user. It's not super useful for the D8, but if you were mapping a complex object like a rock or something, it would be helpful. Like a very high poly rock or just anything that has a whole bunch of polys. With this pop-up open, we give ourselves a little bit of island margin and we click Unwrap. Then we move to the Shading tab. In the Shading tab, we select Add Texture, Image Texture. And that's going to create a new node in the shading graph down below. So we get with that new node, we click the Open and we load the texture map that we're mapping to the object. We need to connect that node to the rest of the object. So we take that little yellow dot at the top of the new node that says color, and we hook that back to the principal BSDF node where it says base color. So we just draw a line between the yellow dots. Then we switch back to the layout tab. In the layout tab, all the way over on the far right, there's this drop down. We click on that drop down button and we make sure that in color, we've got texture selected. That's going to apply the texture to the entire object. Then with the split screen between layout and UV editing, in the UV editing tab, we just grab the vertices and move them around to map them to the faces. And when I tried it the first time, this was my end result in Blender. And it's the same thing. We just export that object as an OBJ and we're good to go. So in UVMapper Classic, we go to File, Load Model. We go to our project folder and we pop open that D8. It's going to give you that pop-up because there's no MTL. There's only an OBJ. That's fine. I go File, or sorry, we go Edit, New UV Map, Cylindrical. We want it aligned on the Y-axis. Let's try with no gaps in the map. There we go. We go File, Save Model, keep the options as they are, click OK, and I'm going to call that D8 UV Mapper. That's UV Mapper. Now, let's pop open Milkshape. We go File, Import, Wavefront Object, and I am going to Maps in a Mirror. We don't want the long form UV Mapper, we just want the regular one. So we've got this great big object, and what I'm going to do, I am going to scale this a little bit so that it's a different size from the UVMapper D8. Just going to go 1.1 on all of these. You don't have to do it this way, but I just want it to be a different size. Let's make that even bigger. Okay, so this is about 20% larger than the UVMapper one. So in our Groups tab, we have the default, that's our material selected. With it selected, we go to the Materials tab. We click New. We click that first non-rectangle. Yeah, we go to Maps in a Mirror, and we just load up that D8 texture. Then we click Assign. And because it's not mapped in any way, it's going to do that, which is fine. Now, Milkshape is a little bit tougher because we need to separate the actual faces. So we go to the Model tab, Select button, we make sure that face is selected. We grab the 4 top faces, then regroup. Then we grab just those 2 faces, regroup, and let's hide some stuff so we can see what we're actually working on. And we just grab that face and regroup once more and hide it. So we just got one of the top faces. And I'm sorry, which regroup? Regroup 1 is the one I'm looking for. So we go Window, Texture Coordinate Editor, regroup 1. And make sure front is selected in the drop down here and remap. And that's going to give us this giant face here. So I don't super love that, but that's fine. What I'm doing, I hold Control and I just drag that texture over. Then make with the X locked, I'm just going to move this face up so it only takes up about half of the map. Hey, Changeling. Glad you could make it. I was wondering if you would show this workshop is one that you requested. Then we lock our Y. We go to the Move tab and we just scoot that over. We're just fitting this face to the 1. Then let's move that to where it's about, let's just eyeball it to the center. And there we go. That one, regroup 1, I'm just going to make that 1. Just rename it 1, so we already know that one's done. Then we select that one, regroup 2, and we go Window, Texture Coordinate Editor, regroup 2. With front selected, we just remap. And let's lock the X again. And we move this vertex down to the bottom of the map, like so. Then let's lock our Y and unlock the X. So we're only moving horizontally now. Now we move this to that 2 there. Then we take the top vertex and move it to center, like so. See what our 2 face looks like. And let's see what our 1 face looks like. So we select both of those and regroup, and that one, just call it done. I like to rename these as they work so that I don't have to rework them. Then let's unhide this, select one of the faces and regroup. Make sure we're only moving on the X. I'll go to the Move button. Let's scoot that one there. And let's scoot the bottom one there. And then just grab the whole thing and move it back over to the 6. There's the 6 face. We unhide done. We select. We regroup. And rename it done. And hide. Then group 7. Go to Texture Coordinate Editor. Regroup 7. We remap that as the front. And this is our 7 face. So grab those 2. Make sure that we're locked on the Y. Sorry, once more. And make sure that one is locked on the Y as well. And then we unlock the Y, lock the X, and move that up. And what does our face look like? Perfect. So we unhide, select, regroup, rename 12 as done. And we just need that 8 face. So we unhide 10, we select, go to the Texture Coordinate Editor, make sure we're on regroup 10, and we click that remap button. We've got X locked, so we just move that down to the halfway point. Then we lock Y, unlock X, select, move that over like so. And move that, but we know this one is going to be backwards. So that goes there. That goes there. That bottom one, we just move it like so, and then we grab all three and move them back to the 8. Perfect. I suppose if it's an 8, it doesn't matter that much. It's the same forward and backwards. Regroup, and then we go one more time, Windows, Texture Coordinate Editor, and that's awesome. Now, if we want to get fancy, we can make it so the faces are a little bit more squared on, or a little, they take up a little bit more of the number instead of the rest of the map. So let's grab the down facing faces first. No, make sure that the X is locked. And let's just haul those down. Then on the up facing faces, we need to do the opposite. So we just grab all of the corners there and we move those up. Now, what does it look like now? Yeah, that's a little bit better. So I'm going to export this one as a wavefront. And I'm going to call that D8 Milkshape. Okay, and finally, we open Blender 4.4. Ignore the splash screen. And then the first thing that we do, we click delete to delete the default cube. Then we will file, import, wavefront. And we go to maps in a mirror. And we just take that unmapped D8 like so. Then we go to the UV editing tab. And that's going to split our screen. So in the layout tab here, we click A. That's going to select all of our faces. Then we U. This is UV mapping. And we select Smart UV Project in the dropdown. And then we make our island margin 0.05 and unwrap. And see, if you look over here in the UV editing pane, you can see that those faces have now been unwrapped. Now we need a texture. So we go to shading. Scale that back a little bit so that you've got a clearer picture of the nodes. Then we go add texture, image texture. We pop that node there. And then let's make that a little bit bigger. And then we click open, desktop, maps in a mirror, and we grab that D8 JPEG. Now we take this little yellow dot where it says color and we hook that to the base color in the principal BSDF node, like that. Back to our layout tab. Make sure that object is selected, and then in this drop down here, the far left corner of the layout tab, make sure that that's texture. And it applies a texture to the map. Now we need the UV editing pane. So we've got these side by side now. And we're probably going to map this one a little bit differently. So I make sure I'm in the UV mapping pane, and I'm just mouse wheeling out. And I'm going to move. I switch to the move button here, and well, that's no good. I just click on these arrows here. Let's select this one. So we should have a face entirely within the 7. Why am I not seeing that? Oh, because I had to set it up in this pane. It's kind of a pain. So you go over here. So we can see this drop down, and we make sure that texture is selected here. Then there's our 7. So select our 7, all 3 faces this time, and this time we're rotating. That's not it. Is that it? No. So we go A. You have to click A in the 3D view to select all the faces again. Then we rotate until that's at the top. And that appears to be correct. Okay, so we just need to move the faces around now. So let's take that one there. Let's take that one out a little bit. Now, Blender is weird. I am not used to it at all. Take that there, and then let's move these up so it's not right on the border. And again, this isn't perfect. This is just for display purposes. Okay, so I'm happy with that 7 face. Now let's make this one our 8, I guess. So we move. Whoa, that's not it. No, forget it. Let's make this one 5. But in order to do that, we need to move these vertices out of the way. So we're just going to do that for now. It's fine. We'll come back later and fix them. Then reselect that face. Move that in so it's entirely on the 5. Then where's our 5? Okay, so we need to figure out that top edge. No. Do that edge. And then we need to move this. That looks about the same. The faces are in completely different places, but that's fine. Then A to select all once again. Now let's do our 3 face. We rotate until we find the right direction. That's the right direction. Yeah, we just try to make it about the same height as the 5 face. Move that over. That's kind of huge, but it's fine. Select A to select all again, and the 1 is down here for some strange reason. So we select the 3 triangles on the 1, and we rotate to make sure that it's pointed in the right direction. That is really sensitive. I just move it a tiny bit and okay, that appears to be the right direction. So move that there, that there, that to the center. Then we just want to eyeball it so that it's about the same as the 7. These two are a little bit high, so I'm moving them down. And if we just spin it around in the 3D paint, it looks really good. So once again, A. And I want to make this bigger. So in our layout tab, we select the scale button and we just make that giant. And they're not perfect. Some of the numbers are bigger than the others, but Blender has a weird way of mapping things. I'm just illustrating a point. Then we go File, Export, Wavefront. And I'm going to call this D8 Blender. Okay, so we're in game and we've got these 3 deco objects. I made them different sizes so you can see kind of how the different mapping methods look. You've got on the left, this is UVMapper. You can see the numbers don't fit quite squarely on the faces. We could probably mess with the map on that one. We've got Milkshape. This is probably the one that I like the best just because I'm most familiar with how to map things in Milkshape. And then we have Blender, which is basically me trying something new, and they don't look as uniform at all. They're just kind of all over the place. But, oh yeah. Yeah, see, those are, yeah, they're not quite as consistently mapped. Whereas if you look at the Milkshape, they're all about the same size. And UVMapper, we just applied a simple cylinder map and as is, so we didn't really try to remap the faces as much. So that's pretty much it. You have 3 methods for mapping, and as I said, this is just dipping your toe in the water. There are a lot of different tools for UV mapping out there. So find the method that works best for you and learn from there.